He's probably one of the most smartest guys I know, so I'd like to introduce him to the stage. Josh, please come on.
Hello, everybody. I was feeling rather nervous about coming up and doing this presentation today. I was feeling a little bit like I've been screwed over. One, because I happened to have a Luke statement. I mean, that was an amazing presentation, wasn't it? And I'm not a motivational speaker by any stretch of the imagination. My role, as Mark Wright said, is head of strategy, so I spend all my days sat behind spreadsheets, looking through data boards, working with clients like you guys to put the best strategies together with best marketing tactics. So I'm not a public speaker, so please bear with me today. And I've spotted a few people around the room who are going to give me applause if things really start going badly. The other reason I was a little bit nervous is because the topic they gave me is probably another least favourite topic in the world, the pandemic. Are we sick of talking about this yet? But it's a really interesting topic, and I hope that today we will learn something, that you'll come away with some useful insights, and you will find this presentation interesting. And maybe I'm not a public speaker like Luke. Yes, I am nervous, but hopefully I can be nervous and confident at the same time and try and get some useful messages across to you guys today. So thank you. Before I get stuck into this topic, I actually want to ask, I think what is a seemingly very obscure question, which is, are there any parents in the audience today? Just hands in the air. Yeah, it's more on the older side, isn't it? Lots of parents in the room, fantastic. I know exactly how you guys feel. I recently became a parent as well, 14 weeks ago now, with this lovely little girl here, Margot. And probably like you, and certainly like Carol, I came quickly to realise that A, I really value my sleep, and B, this lady does not keep me very much on. And I was sat there a few weeks ago thinking about this topic. I was sat at like 1 in the morning trying to knock her to sleep, trying to get to sleep. And I realised, oddly enough, that being a dad is an awful lot like working in marketing. What the f is this guy not there? So a quick story before we start, and I promise this ties in with the theme of the pandemic somehow. So I'm rocking this little girl, I'm trying to rock this little girl to sleep at like 1 in the morning, right? Like all the parents know, kids, they don't like to sleep. They're screaming, they're crying, it's 1 in the morning, she's not having any of it. And I'm sat there and I'm trying every different tactic under the sun. And eventually, somehow, I found the perfect solution. I wish I'd had this video a little bit sooner with the rocking technique, because that might have worked as well. But for me, what it was is I had to rock a very particular way. I had to, like this, so he knows, you know the move, right? So I had to rock like this, swaddle her up. She had to have one arm out of the swaddle, yeah, so she could suck her fist, lie on her side, and pat her bum. And if I did all those things in combination, she fell asleep. It was like a miracle. I was ecstatic. I was ready to go out and write a book. I give up my job and become a public speaker just on parenting. But I thought, do you know what? Before I do that, I better do some due diligence. Check this actually works consistently. So it came to the next night. It's 1 in the morning again. She's screaming, she's crying, I'm doing the rock, roll on her side, arm out, patting her bum. And she looks at me with that expression, and she's just, no, she's not having any of it. She knows exactly what I'm doing, and she goes out of her way to scream, 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 and she is awake even longer than the night before. It's like 5 in the morning before I get to sleep. Because being a dad is an awful lot like being marketing for this particular reason. Kids are very changeable day by day, they're constantly changing, their behaviours are changing, they're adapting to the environment, they're learning new things. And as a consequence of that, what works one day does not necessarily work the next day. And this is where it ties in, right? This is how being dad is like being in marketing, because COVID, consumers themselves are very much like working with smaller children, right? Because consumers, like kids, are changing day by day as well, whether it's the psychological factors, whether it's the demographics that are changing, whether it's the environment. Day by day, consumers are changing the way they work and they react. So what worked yesterday does not necessarily work today, a little bit like my daughter there as well. And we know this one here, the environment has changed massively because of COVID, because of the pandemic in the past few years. Never before have there been such a big set of changes in such a small time period that impacted consumers so much and so quickly. And so, that's what I want to talk to you guys today about. We're going to look at some of the trends that consumers have been going through over the past year, some of the market changes and environmental factors that have impacted on consumers post-COVID-19, post-pandemic. We're then going to look at some of the major upheavals for businesses, some businesses that have done really well and some that have done really poorly off the back of these consumer changes, and then we'll try and answer the question, is inbound marketing still working? Now, if the answer is no to that, it's going to be a slightly odd finish to a talk at an inbound event. But let's assume the answer is yes, then we're going to have a look at some of the channels that we might want to focus on next, or some of the future channels, approaches and techniques that we can use to improve the way we market post-2022. Does that make sense? Lots of nods. Amazing. So, first up, changes in consumer behaviour. It seems like every year now, every week even, there's some major upheaval in our lives. COVID has obviously been a big one the past few years, a huge one, and it's led to a lot of these changes, things like moving to remote work, life simplification or looking for a more simple lifestyle, growth or change in values towards planet-first behaviours, security, privacy, valuing security and privacy as a consumer. And then you've got other things like the Great Resignation, as we mentioned today, and the cost of living crisis that is affecting us all right now. And these are just 6 of the ones that I came up with. There's all sorts of micro trends happening in the marketplace, but these are some significant factors that have really changed the way that we, as marketers, reach out and engage with our audiences. And the audiences themselves have changed in consequence of that. So I want to go through each of these in a bit more detail. The first one here, the move to remote work, it's already mentioned today. We all experienced this. Everyone, pretty much everyone works remote now, or hybrid, or some version of that, don't they? So, and you'll know when you've experienced this yourself, by moving to remote work, we've increasingly found that as ourselves and our consumers have more time online. In fact, last year there was a 10% growth in the overall number of internet users in a single year. That's huge. A 10% year-on-year growth in social media users. All these new explosive channels like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, coming to the marketplace that never existed before because now we have so much more time online. And 71% of consumers have increased their online spending post-COVID-19 because of the fact that we're now spending more time online, because we can no longer see our families, because we're now a more remote society. At least we're at the time. More time online, but because of all this extra data, because of all these extra channels and all these extra communication channels that we have to work within, our attention spans are now a lot shorter than they ever were before. So it's increasingly harder to capture the attention of your user base. Remote interactions are now the norm. Zoom, Google Meet, or whatever it is, that's the de facto way of communication these days. And we know, of course, that consumers are exploring new ways of communication. So here's an interesting fact. During COVID-19, a whopping 75% of consumers tried new shopping behaviours. Many of them cited convenience and value as being their primary motivators. You also had a 69% increase in the number of video interactions for sales reps, 31% increase in use of online chat interactions, and 80% now, I think we saw this stat before, 80% of decision makers now prefer remote interactions over face-to-face communications, just because of the fact that we've moved to this remote society and this remote workforce. And here's another really interesting set of statistics. This is looking particularly at the beauty and fashion industry, and what we see is that before, during, and after COVID-19, the propensity of consumers to shop online for beauty and fashion products went from 29% up to almost 60% as of today. That's a 2-3-fold increase in the propensity of users to shop online for those particular products. Now, my wife is a bit of an evil eye. She never purchased anything online. Well, she didn't before COVID-19. Now, after COVID-19, she buys all her makeup online, she buys clothes online, They've got all these great services now. You can buy clothes, send it back, you don't have to pay for anything, it comes in the post. It's extremely convenient. Even she is now doing that. She's traditionally never been someone that would purchase anything. So again, consistently, our behaviours, the way we work, react is changing. Some more stats here. This is L'Oreal e-commerce sales pre, during, post COVID-19. You can see that throughout the pandemic, their total revenue from e-commerce increased to over 80% of their total revenue, up from just 20% in 2017. And yet, their spending on digital media spend only increased to, well, it decreased from 60% to 30%, spending less money. Increasingly, the audience is now buying online. Here's another one. Again, I think this was mentioned earlier. It's called life simplification. We've all felt this pre-COVID-19. Life was hectic. We were all busy, working non-stop, our phones connected, we were in the offices, we were commuting an hour each way, back and forth. But all that came to a halt during COVID-19. And now afterwards, we see that trend continuing, where people are increasingly focusing on self-improvement, self-development, where they're spending more time with family and friends. They're moving away from big cities. They certainly did during COVID. Maybe that's reversing slightly now, but for the most part, we've had an exodus out from big city environments, looking to remove life stresses and also adapt or change their preferences towards saving the planet. In terms of the behaviours, that means that health and education become bestsellers, key driving themes within marketing. And 39% of consumers now have switched away from trusted brands towards more purpose-driven brands. So this is another big trend we see where pre-pandemic, we all talked about sustainability and planning first behaviours, but we know in the past few years, this has become the de facto conversation for brands around the world. People now are increasingly switching away from brands that do not espouse their values, their planning first behaviours, and their journey towards simplifying their lifestyle. Does that make sense? There's another really interesting stat. So this is from McKinsey, this looked at the different values people place on making their purchase decisions. And just after COVID-19, we now see that planet first behaviours are the number one factor that consumers consider when purchasing or switching to any new brands. So increasingly, planet first behaviours have become the norm. Whoops, wrong way. And we saw that during COVID-19, a whopping 71% rise in the search terms for sustainable products as well. Again, products are increasingly looking towards planet first behaviours. The Great Resignation, again, we talked about that. I love how all these themes are cropping up throughout the day and they're all just coming together in this summary. But the Great Resignation, again, we've all experienced this. People leaving in droves, companies that don't espouse the same values as them, but don't value them as employees, who don't offer the right benefits. We've never had lower unemployment, so the opportunities for employees now are there, but that's led to a higher rate of turnover for businesses. They've been looking for new roles and there's been a greater focus on self-improvement and education. But as consumers, that's difficult because then organisations struggle to retain their tacit knowledge. So knowledge transfer failures, because we're losing all these staff members, causes discontinuity. Lower staff levels create longer wait times because consumers would expect things on demand, we expect things next day, instantly. And a lack of engagement causes a lack of innovation within organisations as well. So if you don't value your employees in the way that Luke talked about, if you're experiencing this Great Resignation and you're losing this tacit knowledge, you're going to lose consumers along with it because they value speed, continuity, innovation within your services. Security and privacy too. We all know pre-COVID-19, GDPR came around. That's not a new thing. But increasingly, consumers are becoming more aware about security and their own individual data privacy. iOS now, you have to literally select for every app whether you want to allow it to track you. You have to accept cookie policies online for virtually every website. Increasingly, consumers are aware of the data that's being captured about them, but also increasingly, they're no longer trusting those digital channels with that data. Does anybody here trust Facebook with their data? No, exactly. Likewise, Google responded to this as well by removing third-party cookies, which I think is a good thing and help us focus on more omni-channel experiences. But that's in relation to the fact that we're now more aware of security, concerned about security and privacy as consumers. So again, we're actively seeking brands that anonymise our data and purchasing more exclusively from trustworthy brands as well. I think it's the last one now, but the cost of living crisis, the one we're all experiencing right now. Rising costs 4 times greater deterrent to spending savings than pandemic uncertainty. And there's increasingly more price sensitivity for consumers who are sensitive both to changes in price, upward and shrinkflation. We're very aware of that, and it's affecting everyone universally. 33% of consumers now are buying less in 2022, and they're buying fewer brands. They're spending up to £90 more each month on bills and taxes, giving them less discretionary income to spend on services and products like yours. The supply chain challenges and increasingly brands are struggling to provide that consistent product availability that customers now expect. So what does that mean for our consumer of today? Certainly they look a little bit different than the consumer of yesterday, because now we know that we have consumers spending more time online, they're experimenting with new brands, they increasingly value planet-first behaviours, they prioritise trustworthy brands, they're looking for speed, customer support and service, highly price sensitive, reducing their spending in 2022, or focusing on more essential services, and increasing spending on e-commerce through digital channels. Does anyone here recognise those trends? Does anyone experience those trends within your organisation? A lot of nodding heads, some of you not sure. So what does the new normal look like in 2022 as an organisation? Where should you be focused? You need to make sure that you're meeting your customers where they are. They're increasingly online, they're increasingly exploring new channels, new social media channels, new ways of working. And you need to make sure that wherever you market your services, however you communicate with your customers, you're doing it on the platforms that they operate within, and using tools like HubSpot to provide omni-channel experiences that follow those users through those different pathways. You need to build trust and thought leadership into your operating model. The content you put out needs to build trust into the way that you're perceived as a brand. You need to focus on creating fantastic user-first experiences. Shift your mindset towards planet-first behaviours, because this is a priority for consumers today. Leverage first-party data rather than third-party data. As we know, third-party cookies are going away. We need to use platforms that allow us to track users in a holistic way throughout their journey with us as a brand. And then, of course, again, we need to build those great omni-channel experiences. They all make sense. So here's a business that did really badly with this. They didn't adopt the way that they worked during COVID-19. They didn't really understand the consumer or the way that consumers are changing. Primark, as we all know, Primark lost upwards of estimated $1 billion because they saw the cost of setting an e-commerce store as being too great. That was an idea that didn't last very well and it aged very well, did it? And that was before COVID-19. No, e-commerce, too expensive. Nobody wants that from Primark. But then, of course, everything shut down and it's been 4 months unable to sell any products at all. And I messaged Primark on this and just to get their feedback, and as it happened 2 days ago, literally, you must have got the message because they're deciding now to start testing online shopping in their first trial. So they're starting to listen, and that's great, but during the COVID-19 pandemic, it's been a really bad job. But a company that's done really well, Nissan at Home, if any of you bought a Nissan car, I think this is limited just for the US, but traditionally, if you want to buy a car, you have to go through a dealership, you've got to meet somebody face to face, meet a salesperson. You all know what car salesmen are like. I'm sorry if there's any in the room. It's not our favourite pastime. But Nissan changed their operating model during COVID-19. So during that period, when everyone was locked away, you can now shop, drive, buy, build your own Nissan car online, purchase it through the website, have it delivered to your door, test drive it, and if you're happy with it, keep it right there on the driveway. You still went through the dealerships because of all the monopoly stuff that's involved with them, but their operating model changed and they adapted to the way that consumers want to purchase products and want to engage with them as a brand. And of course, they've got it all in on electric. They're really espousing those planet-first behaviours. So that brings me to this. Does inbound marketing still work? We've talked about the flywheel today. There's a definition from HubSpot. Inbound marketing is a business methodology that attracts customers by creating valuable content and experiences tailored to them. It's effectively content with context. It's now answering your buyers' questions, solving their problems in an honest, holistic way where they are. We can look at some of those values we just talked about, meeting your customers where they are, focusing on brand values and customer experience, building trust with thought leadership, leveraging first-party data and omnichannel experiences. Do they feel like they fit within inbound marketing as a methodology, solving pain points for your customers, answering the questions they have? It would obviously be a very short presentation if not, because of course they are absolutely inbound-led behaviours and inbound-led experiences that customers now are expecting. And we know, we will see here some of this data from some of our existing customers who went through this transition period during COVID-19. They re-evaluated their consumers, how they operate, they changed their own operating model, to double down on inbound marketing, to double down on planet-first behaviours, to build thought leadership into the operating model, to send out emails but change the context of those emails, build video into the operating system, and manage their SEO backlink profile by reaching out to other industry leaders. And as a consequence of that, you can see they didn't experience an outturn during COVID-19. In fact, they grew 2, 3, 4 times. Whilst there's no y-axis on here, you can roughly see every line there is approximately an extra 1,000 user sessions on their site. So we're going from 1,000 to upwards of 4,000, 5,000 sessions during that period, just by changing and adapting to the way that their consumers experience the world. And equally, a lot of the marketing tactics that we've used in the past, they still work. Email marketing, email is still not dead in 2022. Remind me in 10 years, I don't think it will be dead then either. Building great website user experiences, using online chat, proper audience segmentation and targeting the right person at the right time through their user journey. These are all inbound tactics that still work extremely well today. But maybe the way that you approach them just changes slightly. So rather than focusing on product-led emails, you might start talking more about your brand and the values that you espouse. So changing the way that you use these tactics to align with your values and how you operate as a business, of course, is very important. But fundamentally, these things still work. So that brings me on to what else should you be considering, or where else should you be investing your focus in 2023? What are the other tactics as we go forward that align with that new operating model, that new paradigm for consumer behaviour that we saw before? And again, I think it's great that a lot of these things we've already talked about today, they keep coming up and keep getting reiterated. So hopefully when you go away today, you have a really clear set of objective tactics that you want to take away and work on as we go into the next couple of years. Here's 8 of them. No, here's 9 of them, sorry. The top one doesn't even have a number, it's that important. Getting to know your customer, short video, building omnichannel experiences, localization, community-based marketing, micro-influencers, making sure you've got a really well-optimized mobile experience, using chat AI in a really effective way, virtual marketing events, even a bit of a curveball and virtual reality. These are all potential tactics that you may want to look into and consider as you go into the new year, align with some of those new values. Now, I haven't got time to go through them all today, so if you want to talk about omnichannel experiences, you've got a lot of HubSpot experts in the room here. That's a platform perfectly designed to support omnichannel as a methodology. Or you can speak to me at the end. Localization and community-based marketing, virtual events. Come and see me at the end. Happy to talk through how you incorporate those into your own marketing tactics as you go forward. But for now, I just want to very quickly focus on some of these other ones. The first one, get to know your customer. I just spent 10 minutes talking about how customers have changed. And we had a list of the new behaviours that customers operate within. But your customers are different from your customers and different from your customers and your customers. I can't give you a specific set list that says this is how your customers operate and these are the values that they benefit from within your organisation. You need to go out and actually speak to your customers. Does anyone do that consistently? Does anyone consistently go out and speak directly to their customers? Nobody. Has anybody spoken with their customers in the past 2 years? One person in a group of 2 people in a group of 100 people. We all know our customers have changed. You've seen them. They've changed massively. Their preferences have changed massively as well. If you're not speaking to your individual customers on a even yearly basis, you're going to quickly get outdated and quickly struggle to align your marketing and services with what they want. So it's really important that you spend the time now to go out and re-engage with your customers. Take those personas that you created 10 years ago, take those buyer journeys, take those job to be done statements, the user stories, whatever format exists within, go out and actually speak to your customers. And this is the number one thing that our customers, our clients, you guys with the clients, very rarely do. It's very rarely you go out and speak to customers. Which is madness. These are the people you're trying to sell to. So go out, interview them, have face-to-face interviews, do your industry research, do user testing on your website, send out a survey and ask for their feedback. Don't just rely on Google reviews, go and actually speak to them face-to-face. Get the meeting booked in, because they will be more than happy to speak to you and share their experience with you. And if they had a really bad experience, that's something that you want to capture as well, prove the way you work. So the do is reevaluate your personas, actually speak to your customers, identify the decision makers, influencers, and champions within your marketing. They may have changed, update existing collateral, and get buy-in across the whole organisation. But speaking to personas, make sure you involve your customers, involve your sales teams, involve your finance team, make everyone aligned behind building a good representation of who your customer is today. And if you want any templates, if you want support with this, let me know. When we share this out, we'll share a whole bunch of templates that we use internally, but just please go and do it, speak to your customers. The next one is on short video, and I've just kind of done a bit to death today, so I don't want to spend too long on this one, but we've got the rise of YouTube Shorts. TikTok, I think, is now one of the biggest channels online. That's crazy. TikTok was only like becoming a thing a couple of years ago. But increasingly people are engaging with video content, as we've seen. 93% of businesses are now saying that video is a critical part of their strategy. Does anyone here use video as a critical part of their strategy? Hands in the air. Yeah, so that's like 20%. So there's 60% of you behind the curve. Why not? We've had some great talks today. Go out, utilise video, use it as part of your strategy, because 85% of millennials now purchase products after watching a video. 96% of consumers say they increased their video intake during COVID-19, and 90% of consumers are more than likely to be influenced by user-generated video content. It doesn't matter what type of video content. It could be sales videos through Vidyard, it could be on-page content, that great pillar page you've written that takes 20 minutes to read, a short 3-minute video on the page. It's going to really improve the user journey for your prospects. So please, use more video. Empower your customers, user-generated content as well, extremely valuable. Get the users to do demos, to give you a shout out online, to record testimonial videos, and get every page of your website working with video as the key content type. Create video on scale. Again, we said this earlier. Don't worry about the quality necessarily to a degree. Just create it on scale. Use video on your channel. Keep it short, under 3 minutes. Sell experiences, emotions, and outcomes, not actual products. This is a demo video. The other one here is micro-influencers. So again, another strategy that started to work really well. Typically, people would go for more macro or mega macro influencers, spending mega bucks on getting George Clooney to shout out their new coffee brand, Espresso. But increasingly, we're finding actually you get better engagement by reaching out to the smaller micro influencers within your industry. And a micro influencer is anybody with less than 10,000 subscribers and is willing to talk about your brand. They can do a video on YouTube, they can leave you a testimonial again, they can share your website with their subscriber list, whatever it looks like. An influencer is just somebody who's willing to share your brand, shout out the great work that you do. But by focusing on a long tail of influencers and micro-influencers, we end up, as you see there, getting a much better response rate, much better engagement versus some of the more macro or mega influencers who people just don't intrinsically trust. So micro-influencers are more trustworthy, they get better engagement, is the message. So research, who are your industry influencers? Identify your micro-segment, understand the content that resonates with your audience, and then build a micro-influencer engagement program. If you would like any help to understand how that works, come and speak to me later on. The next one here, we're getting towards the end now. How are we doing for time? I think we're okay. We okay?
Yeah.
Chatbots. Everyone have a chatbot on the website? Comes in there again. Anyone have a chatbot? I was expecting you all to be able to. If you don't have a chatbot on your website, but if you want to improve the chat experience of consumers, suppose if you already have chatbots, look at other ways that you can adapt this as we go forward. Because we have 80% of customers have really positive experiences with chatbots, 40% of customers now prefer messaging chatbots over virtual agents. We know that chatbots cut customer service costs by over 30%. But most people, I think most people here, when you put a chatbot on the website, you put a little bubble in the corner that says, "Hi, how can I answer your question? Leave me 10 details about you, drop your question here, and then somebody will get back to you in maybe a few weeks." What people don't do, what increasingly we need to do, tailoring experience of our customers, is changing that chatbot, adapting that chatbot based on the page and the context that the prospect is operating on. So if it's a product page, can that chatbot be signposting into your product collection, to your pricing guide, whether it's supplying you pricing right there and then? If it's a blog, can there be signposting into other content pieces that are relevant to that, or a download piece that's going to enable you to capture that user information? Or if it's the home page, can you directly connect them straight to a lead, a service agent, rather than forcing them to go through 30 different questions and leaving 30 different pieces of information? So the message is, look, build multi-pathway chatbots, ungate existing content. I did mention that once. So any content you've got today that has a form on it, you've got to fill in a form to download a content piece. Consider ungating that. Make it freely available online. Search engines can rank for it, or you can rank for it through search engines, but then use a chatbot to try and capture that user's information and get into the next thing, which might be a demo or a pricing guide, so on and so forth. And then make sure you engage and enable sales teams. Don't just have the chats coming through to you in the marketing department, get your sales team involved as well. Make sure they're engaging with these users online and solving those questions as quickly as possible. Because every day it takes you to answer a customer question is another 50, 60, 70% of potential customers that you're going to be losing. Mobile, I won't labour on this one because we've got a good presentation about websites coming up shortly. But look, mobile, we know 80% I think now of all traffic goes through mobile. We all use mobiles for downloading, consuming video content on mobile. Shopping apps set to increase by 40% by 2025. Advertising revenue going up to 35 billion. SMS open rates at 98%. Mobile is obviously a channel that works, but very few people have a fully mobile optimized website. A lot of people say, "Oh, Josh, my website scales down, it works on mobile," but very few people have actually gone in and tailored an experience for that particular mobile user. It might be a very different experience. Do you need to look at different click targets? Do you need to consider the content on page, use HubSpot smart content to change the information that's being displayed to that user, so on and so forth? The experience that somebody will have through mobile should be very different to that they have on your desktop. And I think a good example of this is when Crystal would say the same thing as well. When people come to us having pre-designed websites and give us a website to build, 99% of the time, the first view we get is the view of the desktop. This is what I want to make, this desktop website. And we have to either ask for the mobile version, or that's the secondary consideration. But we exist in a world now that is mobile first. Your mobile website should be your number one platform that should be fully optimized for your user experience. And the last one, a bit of curveball, virtual reality, the metaverse, we've all heard that this year. Is VR a thing right now? Not outside of gaming. Is it going to be a thing in 2022? Probably not. But I guess the message here is always be thinking about the next best thing or the next potential future tactic that could work for your organisation. VR can enable virtual experiencing of products. It can be a substitute for in-person interactions, so sales teams can use VR to have face-to-face conversations with your prospects. Think about that, how that jumps the void from working remote to going back to face-to-face. It can support with product training, with virtual events, so on and so forth. The message is, look, maybe there's some VR opportunities for you, but generally, make sure you're always investing in developing your future models of success, whatever that might be. Don't forget about VR just because we're kind of sniggering at this idea of the metaverse. It will be a thing in the next 3 to 4 years. Think about how you can build that into your future state of being as an organisation. So just to summarise, hopefully all that made sense. Key messages in 2022, meet your customers where they are, build trust and thought leadership into your operating model. Great, fantastic, user-first, mobile-friendly experiences. Shift your mindset towards planet-first behaviours, leverage first-party data, and build great omnichannel experiences through tools like HubSpot. And then some additional tactics we'll just talk through. Get to know your customers, go out, speak to them, update those personas, use short video, it's been said several times today. Build a micro-influencer program if it's relevant to your organisation. Ensure you've got a fully mobile optimised website and user experience. Consider other ways of using chat as a platform, and then think about other ways of working in the future, like virtual reality or other potential channels that will keep you ahead of the competition. I hope all that made sense. I'm not a public speaker by trade. No, we have Kate to be up here today, I don't think. No? Okay. But like we said, I'm up here. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say. If not, no problem. But if you did and you want more information, come and let me know at the end. Thank you very much for your time.
Tony was smart.